Palm oil is consumed daily by billions of people. That's fine. It is everywhere. The majority of us do not know that palm oil is used in many foods. Now, from margarine. Why from? I'm not sure about from. Let's have a look at that. From margarine, chocolate, cookies to bread. Okay, let's fix this first of all. Cookies to bread. Why the range, cookies to breads? We then carry on instant noodles. It's just cookies, bread, instant noodles, and here we put a comma. This is the Oxford comma. We'll talk about the Oxford comma in another video. So let's go back here and have a look. From is used in many foods. We should just say, for example. For example, margarine, chocolate, cookies, bread, instant noodles, and soups. And soups. Of course, I think we're talking about soups that you buy in cans, so processed soups. Yes, not homemade. Processed soups. But of course, that's not necessarily bad English. That's just doesn't really make sense. We can find it, or it is used, or we don't look for it. Okay, it is used, spell this correctly please. It is used in shampoo, soap and lipstick. Okay, we want the Oxford comma here again. There we go. Of course, we could make this all plural. It is used in shampoos, soaps, and lipsticks. But we can have this in the singular as well. It is used in shampoo, soap, and lipstick. That's okay. Let's move on. It is burned as a biofuel in vehicles. Or as biofuel. I think as a biofuel. It is burned as a biofuel in vehicles. Okay, let's move on. Palm oil is very cheap. And, okay, this is wrong. To use this construction, it would be better to write something like this. And for this reason, we don't need that. It is used widely. Palm oil is very cheap, and for this reason, it is used widely. It is produced from palm trees in the poor countries of Southeast Asia. Okay, this is interesting. I'm not sure, Southeast with a hyphen and a capital E. Is this correct? Southeast Asia. Is this the correct spelling, the correct format of that? Well, we should check this. And where would we check this? Well, the best place to check this is something like Wikipedia. So let's go to Wikipedia. Southeast Asia. So there it is. No hyphen, no capital E. We could call it also Southeastern Asia. Right, this is a geographic region. But definitely we'll stick to Southeast Asia. So let's correct that. Get rid of the hyphen, no capital, little e. Let's move on. The massive production of this oil causes the destruction of original tropical forests. I'm not sure why we need to call them original. I think we could just call them of tropical forests. But we'll leave that. This is something we can check up later on if we want to. They are torched. Okay, so I understand they're burning down the forests, original tropical forests that is, torched to make room for huge plantations of palm trees. This causes a loss of biodiversity, the death of orangutans and tigers, which live, they still live in the rainforest, which live in the rainforests, and the displacement of indigenous people. Okay, so let's have a look at orangutans. Now, are you sure you know how to spell orangutan? Let's have a check. And where will we check this? Yes, that's right. We'll check it in Wikipedia again. And there you go, orangutan. That's correctly spelt. Let's have a quick read about him. Orangutans are great apes native to the rainforests of Indonesia and Malaysia. That's quite interesting. And let's now have a look at indigenous people. What exactly are indigenous people? Let's check that. And where shall we check that? Of course, in Wikipedia. Here we are, indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples, also referred to as First People, Aboriginal people, Native people, or, and I'm not going to pronounce that, or maybe I will, autochthonous people. Gosh, what a word. Nowadays, about 20% of palm oil is certified. Now, why now certified? If you say nowadays at the beginning, you don't need to say now. So, nowadays, about 20% of palm oil is certified as sustainable. And we'll put a comma there. But recent research shows that this oil is only marginally more ecological than what? Oh, than other palm oil, and is not able to stop or prevent deforestation. So that's interesting. And let's see what exactly deforestation is. Okay, back to Wikipedia again. Deforestation. Deforestation, clearance, clear-cutting, or clearing is the removal of a forest or stand of trees from land that is then converted to non-forest use. That sounds interesting. Not very climate friendly, I guess. Palm oil is very cheap and useful, but very dangerous for the climate and human health. Now, this is interesting. Palm oil-based biofuels. We can say that. It would be probably nicer to write biofuels based on palm oil in an essay like this. Palm oil-based biofuels. Now, we have a comma here. I'm not quite sure why, but let's move on and leave that comma for a while. With their CO2. Okay, now CO2, what exactly is CO2? Let's check. There we go. Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, chemical formula CO2, and we notice the 2 is in the subscript, so that means it's smaller and lower, is an acidic colorless gas with a density about 53% higher than that of dry air. Notice, of course, this is in American English because of the way colorless is spelt. In British English, of course, we have a U, C-O-L-O-U-R. Let's move on. First of all, let's put 2 into subscript. How are we going to do this? Let's just delete that and put 2 there, highlight it and change it to subscript. There we go. So, palm oil-based biofuels with their CO2 and methane emissions. Okay, so we have to put a comma there. If we are going to put a comma before that clause, then we should put a second comma there. With their CO2, carbon dioxide and methane emissions are much... look at this. That's very interesting. Now, I'm not going to read this out aloud because that would just be wrong, and I wouldn't want anybody to hear me say this. Of course, we could say much worse, or we could say more something, but of course you cannot have more together with this word. This is what you call a double comparative. And let's see if we have some information on double comparatives. There we go. Double comparatives. If an adjective have two comparative markers, it is known as a double comparative. I'm not going to say too much about double comparatives at this time, but I will just correct this and we'll refer to it later on. Are much worse. Palm oil-based biofuels with their CO2 and methane emissions are much worse than traditional fossil fuels. Refined palm oil in our food contains a lot of harmful fatty acid esters that could cause cancer. Oh, that's not good news. It is not easy. Now, that's not really the correct word. What are we referring to? Referring to giving up using palm oil in anything. So it's not easy to give it up. So I think that's probably to give it up. But I don't think resigning is what we do. You resign from a contract, you resign from a job. Don't really resign from using something. For example, the European Union decided to ban palm oil from being used as a biofuel. Capital A. Let's move on. It will be used. It will only be used until 1L 2030. Let's delete that. This decision was not, that's a mistake, was not liked by the Malaysian and Indonesian governments. These countries earn a lot of money selling palm oil. They threatened. Who did they threaten? Well, let's just say they threatened to start a trade war, comma, and said that Europe should not expect that they will continue buying European products. Okay, we can say that. Let's move on. Alternative oil crops, for example, soy, corn, and here we want to put a comma again. This is the Oxford comma once again. And rapeseed require much more land. Now this is the correct use of the comparative. Much more land than palm oil crops and could cause the destruction of the wild habitat in other countries such as Brazil and Argentina. Okay, let's move on. The easiest solution for now is to make changes in our households. When people buy and use less products containing palm oil, the production of it will be lower. For example, we should only eat homemade meals. Of course, that makes sense if you know how to cook, of course, but that's a different story. We should only eat homemade meals free of palm oil, and avoid buying highly processed food rich in palm oil. When shopping, we should read the labels and not buy products. Put a comma here. We should read the labels and not buy products containing palm oil. And once again, we should leave our cars at home more often, comma, and whenever we can, comma, we should walk. We should walk, ride a bicycle, comma, or use public transport. And that's it.